Hello friends, this is Manish Nigam and here I am again with my new explanation, and the poem that I will cover today is A Tiger in the Zoo, written by George Leslie Norris. Let me first talk about the poet George Leslie Norris. He is a Welsh writer. He has written many short stories, many poems, and this Tiger in the Zoo is one of them. It is a beautiful poem having two different scenes, two different imaginations. One imagination is that of when the tiger is in the zoo, and the other one is there when the tiger is in the jungle, the forest. It's a natural habitat. What happens to the tiger when he is confined in a prison, in a cage? And what does a tiger do when he is in the jungle? So these are the two different settings that this poem has. Apart from that, various poetic devices are used here. First of all, let me talk about the rhyme scheme. A, B, A, B. 5 stanzas are there and the rhyme scheme of each stanza is A, B, A, B. You will get personification. Tiger is personified. You will get assonance. Assonance means when a vowel sound in a particular line is repeated many a times. A vowel sound, that is called assonance. You will get onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is a poetic device when the sound is revealed. In a poem, when you find any sound, you will get onomatopoeia. You will get oxymoron. Oxymoron is stanza number 1. Word is quite rage. When two opposite words are combined, opposite adjectives are combined to form a new meaning, it is called oxymoron. You will get enjambment. What is enjambment? Keep in your mind, enjambment means when in a poem, in a stanza, when you don't find any punctuation mark and the line goes to the meaning goes to the next line, such poetic device is called enjambment. While I am explaining you the poem, I will tell you all those, and verse. One more is there, that is alliteration. Alliteration means repetition of consonant sound. Consonant. So here it is, he hears, or one more is there. So while I am explaining the poem, I will tell you what are the different poetic devices used in the poem. Let me start the explanation. Stanza number 1. He stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage on pads of velvet quiet in his quiet rage. He, the tiger. Who is he here? The tiger, and the tiger is personified. Stalks in his vivid stripes. Vivid, bright. Stripes, that lines found on tiger's body, tiger's skin. The few steps of his cage. So the tiger has got a limited place, a small area, and the tiger with his bright colorful stripes walking there on pads of velvet quiet. Velvet quiet, that velvet is here used for the tiger's paws. It is a metaphor, and you all may be knowing metaphor, and if you don't, please ask me, or please ask me in the comment section. On pads of velvet quiet in his quiet rage. So in that limited area, in that limited place, the tiger is walking without making any noise, and the tiger in his quiet rage, oxymoron. The tiger tiger is actually angry, but he doesn't reveal that anger. He is silent, he is quiet, but he is just ignoring the visitors, ignoring the onlookers. Okay, so stanza number 1, let me sum up the whole lot again. The tiger is in the prison, the tiger is in the zoo, it is walking there in the limited area, and the tiger is walking silently, and the tiger is angry, but tiger doesn't reveal his anger to anyone. Come to stanza number 1. He should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass, near the water hole where plum deer pass. Stanza number 2 changes the contrast from one to the other. One means from zoo to the jungle, where the tiger should have been. And what the scene comes when the tiger is in the jungle? He should be lurking. Lurking means hiding. He should be hiding behind the tall grass, and he should be targeting its prey, that is a plum deer, a fat deer. The deer that would come to the water body, to the pond to quench its thirst, will be the target of the tiger. So what the tiger will be doing? Tiger will be there making an ambush to the deer near the pond in the jungle and hiding itself behind the tall grass. Stanza number 2. Now come to stanza number 3. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. Stanza number 2 was when the tiger is in the jungle. Stanza number 3, when the tiger comes out of the jungle, he goes to the outskirt of the jungle. So many villages are there situated near the jungle. And what happened to them when the tiger comes to their area? They all are terrorized. They all are afraid. They start running here and there. So what the tiger can do? The tiger can go and snarling. Snarling means he growls. And that growling terrorizes the people. Showing his fangs. Fangs here means teeth. Showing his fangs, showing his teeth can terrorize the people. Showing his claws, the paws, that can also terrorize the people. So, in stanza number 3, let me recall again the whole lot, that the tiger, apart from being in the jungle, he goes to the nearby areas, nearby villages, and there he creates a sound, the growling, onomatopoeia, the sound onomatopoeia. So he creates the sound, he shows his bright teeth, he shows his claws, and all these actions of tiger terrorize the people, terrorize the villagers who are living in the outskirt of the jungle. Clear, my dear children? Now come to stanza number 4. He is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, alliteration, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitor. Unfortunately, now again we come to the zoo. Stanza number 1, it was in the zoo, and stanza number 4, it is again in the zoo. Unfortunately, the tiger is in the zoo. His power is compressed, captured, captivated by we human beings. He is in a concrete cell, he is in a prison. He is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, and all his power, his might, his strength being suppressed. The tiger can't do anything. The tiger desires for freedom, but there is no freedom. So what does it do? Stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitor. The tiger has nothing to do. Just to stalk means again walk. In that limited place, in that limited area, the tiger walks and ignores visitors. Those who are coming, you might have visited the zoo and you know how enthusiastic it is. But dear children, think about those animals who are imprisoned there, who are put behind the bars. Think about those. So stanza number 4, here the tiger is in a concrete cell. He is ignoring the visitors. He is just, his power, his might is compressed, and he is ignoring the visitors. He is just walking in that limited place, in that limited area. Now comes the last stanza. He hears the last voice at night. He hears, alliteration. He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. Now what does it do? The tiger just listens the last voice, the last call. That is actually the siren of the patrolling car. And he hears that call and imagines that it is night. He is helpless, miserable, pathetic, but can't help it. So he has to just pass its night. So what does it do? It looks towards the sky. There is a bright star, and the tiger passes its night because the tiger is exhausted badly, tired badly, mentally as well as physically. The tiger is tired. So the tiger passes its night by looking at the star with his brilliant eyes. So now the last stanza, let me recall again the whole point, the main point. The tiger listens the last call, that is of the siren of the patrol car, and the tiger passes its night by looking towards the sky. The bright star is there, and the tiger just stares. Stare means gazes, gauge. So the tiger stares towards that bright star through his brilliant eyes. That completes the poem, my dear children. Hope you would like it. Thank you and God bless.